Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy.
If you could suspend the history of the game for a moment, they are an illogical source of voting on the medal.
So let's educate.
There's no one probably less equipped in the ground because they rightfully are focusing on the job that's important to the game for them to do.
It's the midfield group, and it will be the midfield group, and it's always going to be the midfield group, Jared, and there ain't anything we can do about it.
And I just wonder if we need to educate the umpires. So we just expect that umpires know what attributes influence the games.
It's little wonder that it's the midfielders' medal because they're the ones that are constantly in the umpire's view.
Yes, around and around we go. Last night, the annual beat-up of the midfielders' Brownlow medal was on in earnest, as you just heard. But I must admit, I'm not sure what people want to happen, other than to find other people to vote for it. Well, let's address that element. The game has evolved, and the midfield guns are, in general terms, the most effective players on the ground now. All of the voices heard are major devotees of champion data. In fact, they don't comment, usually without some sort of champion data evidence to back up their thoughts. And, of course, they acknowledge the ability of champion data to assess the game. Champion data's top 10 players are all mids, if you include a ruckman. Yes, the highest rated player from champion data is Nick Naitanui, followed by McRae, Oliver, Stringer, Bont, Libber, Martin, Petrarca, Parrish and Miller. Naitanui is the best player in the game, according to champion data. But yes, like Max Gawn, he too is essentially a midfielder. So if anyone had a reason to be peeved at the Brownlow medal result, it was Naitanui. Maybe we should get the coaches to vote. If the umpires aren't up to it, well, maybe we should hand it over to the coaches. Well, let's look at the coaches' votes. If the coaches were awarding the Brownlow, the first 15 players in their award were, you guessed it, mids. Maybe they need education too. If you include Naitanui, who finished in 11th, and Gawn, who finished in 15th, every one of them were mids. Oliver won, followed by Bont, Wine, Steele, Miller, Walsh, Merritt, Petrarca, Parrish, Laird, Naitanui 11th, as I said, Gawn 15th. The rest were all midfielders. So rather than cooking the umpires, saying they got it wrong, need education, the system needs changing, etc., maybe we should be saying that the umpires have nailed it. The game has evolved. We need to accept that. And they are rightly, with the exception of Naitanui, moving on accordingly. So rather than disparaging the accuracy or legitimacy of the Brownlow, let's accept that, like the MVP in the Super Bowl almost always goes to a quarterback, maybe a running back, let's accept that the inside mids in the main at this part of the evolution of the game are the most influential players. And if we are to move forward, evolving other awards is the way to go to recognise the best forward and the best backman as an adjunct to the medal. Your thoughts? 131332 is the number. 131332 is the Harcourt's open line. Shortly, Lee Matthews, but first let's welcome Scoop McClure from the West. Welcome, Scoop.
Hello, Jared. Couldn't agree more for what it's worth. You don't need me vindicating your opinions. But since you mentioned this to me a little earlier today, I just did a couple of quick numbers. So in 2001, our own great Matthew Lloyd kicked 105 goals and only polled 15 Brownlow votes. Now, there were games in the middle of the season where he kicked 6 goals and then 5 goals and polled 0. Because, you know, back in Lloydie's day in the late 90s, early 2000s, kicking a bag of 5 or 6 wasn't necessarily going to win you the game, Jared, because someone else might have been doing it as well. But we moved on a little bit. I mean, Richo nearly won a Brownlow, albeit he pushed up onto the wing that year. Nick Riewoldt had 4 seasons where he had 15 Brownlow votes or more. Lance Franklin's had 4 seasons where he's had 20 Brownlow votes or more. And, you know, Ben Brown playing for a team that weren't all that good at the time. They were just coming off prelims in 2017, kicked 65 goals and polled 14 Brownlow votes. So for me, Jared, it's just a reflection of our perception. And I'm completely with you. Take it off the umpires, give it to someone else. I don't think you're changing the result that much.
Well, certainly on the evidence I just suggested, if you went to champion data, who, unlike most people, they watch every person, every game. They came up with basically the same result as the umpires, with the exception of Naitanui. If we go to the coaches, they came up with exactly the same outcome as the umpires give or take one or two players just in order, but they are telling us.
So the umps got it right, really, Jared.
Well, the
didn't they?
umpires got it
umps have had a
100%
good year.
right. Now, that doesn't mean that other players aren't influential. Of course they are. I mean, we all know how important the tall forwards are. We all know how important Stephen May is potentially going to be on the weekend. But how you recognise that and whether or not you think they're on a yearly basis more important than Petrarca or more important than Oliver in comparison to May is something that the coaches have acknowledged they don't think that they are. We'll go to your calls in just a sec, but before that, let's welcome this man.
Oh, the post is broken. Matthews hit it. Oh, talk about a he-man.
Yes, Lee Matthews is here for the Monopoly game at Macca's. Paul Roos not far away from joining us as well. Welcome to you, Lee. Did the umpires get it right or wrong?
Oh, well, they got it as right as you can get it. I think the thing that really hits us, Jared, I mean, it's been a relatively small, medium-sized midfielders award for the last 20-odd years, but there's a lot of, you think, why? Why is the voting so big? I mean, you won your Brownlow in 88 with 20 votes, and Bob Skilton won 3 with 24 votes, and Ian Stewart 3 with 21 votes. So it's the fact that there's players to win it now seem to need to get 30-plus votes. But when you think of it, in the interchange era, like model interchanges over this last generation, where a midfielder used to probably, well, I don't know about you, how much of the game did you spend on the ball in the late 80s?
Probably 75%.
Well, yeah, okay, and then have it wouldn't go off the field. You'd
No.
have a rest forward.
Yep.
Like that's what I did. That's what Bob Skilton would have done. So on that basis, I think what happens now, of course, the midfielder goes off the field for rest in the main. So they might be on the field around the middle of the ground for like 85% of game time. So they get a lot of the ball, and therefore they're under the umpire's eyes so often. So the really good ones, when you think of it, that might be the logic why they're getting the big votes, they're getting the big numbers, the big stats, because they're under the umpire's eyes, and therefore at the end of the count they're getting your 30. Your 30 plus. I had to look through it. We know there was one umpire used to do it way back. Then there was 2 umpires. Now there's 3 umpires. I reckon when there's the 3 umpires collectively are doing it, you don't get any surprises.
Yep.
I mean, I think they're going to get somewhere near who was the most valuable player that particular day. But back in the from mid-70s, Jared, to mid-90s, so this was only a couple of generations ago, listen to these names who won it. Dempsey, Moss, Teasdale, Templeton, Quinlan, Blight, Moore, Glendenning, Lockett, Steins, Wind, McKernan and Grant. Well, they got the most votes, but they were ineligible. So for 12 or 13 of that 20-year period,
Yep.
big guys won it. So you wonder why is it now in the modern era, where it's almost totally the midfielders are the ones who are getting the 30 plus votes that win them the game. So clearly there's no Peter Hudson, Jared, in 1970 kicked 146 goals. Got 14 votes.
Did he win the best and fairest that year, Lee?
No, that was another year.
Yeah.
71, he kicked 150, got 18 votes. So, he's kicking big multiples of goals, but the umpires weren't noticing him back in that era. But again, the winners were only getting 20-odd votes, so he wasn't far off winning. But actually, isn't it that Fred Goldsmith is renowned for being the only fullback who's ever won it back in the 50s or something?
Yeah, I think Vernon Howe might have been a fullback.
Of course, but defenders are almost, I guess those names that I read out, Ross Glenning would have been playing centre-half back in that era. All the West were probably playing forwards or were ruckman. But the point you're making is that the umpires not being the right people, it's a bit like saying, well, democracy's not perfect, but it's the best of the available options.
Yes.
So what is a better option than the umpires? Because they're definitely unbiased. They're out there in the middle with the players. Yeah, I just can't think of a better option to end up with the Brownlow medal.
No, I think it's a nonsense saying that they're not getting it right. I mean, if they're getting it almost exactly the same as the coaches, then you're saying, well, we should be hailing their accuracy rather than that and addressing the major issue, which seems to be that it's so confined at the present time because the tall forwards aren't kicking enough goals because arguably because of zone defences and the way that coaches have set up. They don't want a 100-goal kicker. They want 6 options that may kick 2 goals each. They've got to battle congestion, etc., and come up with a way that, for the first time in 100 years, we recognise a defender, because defenders haven't been recognised basically for the entirety of the game, and come up with a way that we can assess who wins the Peter McKenna medal. Now, my challenge to you, Lee, is I don't think it should ever be just the Coleman medalist. I don't think that guarantees you that you're the best forward. All it tells you is you've kicked the most. Yep. Tell me, who is the best forward this year? Is it Toby Green, who some people think's the best player in the game, or is it Jack Hawkins, Tom Hawkins, I should say, who, in my view, is the best forward this year?
Like, without notice, I'd probably say, Tom Hawkins has been a better player overall this year than Toby Green. But I kind of think one of the goal kicker gets the Coleman medal, the most goals. That's a statistical award, isn't it? Simply,
that's all it is. But it doesn't tell you he's the best. We
should develop somehow or other the most valuable defender and the most valuable forward. Now the question is, how do you do it? I mean, the All-Australian Selection Committee selects the All-Australian team. So, theoretically, they could actually say, okay, of the 6 defenders, who is our defender of the year? Who's been our most valuable defender? And the same with the forwards. I would like to think that the people who are actually into the game the most, in a sense, in the winning and losing of the game, are the senior coaches, which is why I think the Senior Coaches Award is still the most credible. The same players win it, as you were pointing out.
Yep.
But I would like to think that it's one thing you'd think the coaches could be asked to do at the end of the year, and you could say, just ignore your own team. Of the other 17 teams, who do you think was the most valuable defender in the game? That way you've got to weigh up, is it a key position player? Is it a running halfback? And you might say the same about the most valuable forward. Again, is it a key position player? Is it a sort of running flanker or a Waitman or a Green or different players? I kind of would like to think that the coaches, apart from the statistical stuff you could put in a computer and put the champion data and understand, but I think if the coaches took that seriously, I think that would be a valuable award, those two.
So we've got the Peter McKenna Award, Lee. After the break, I want you to give us the name of the Defenders Award. In fact, we may name it the Paul Roos Award, because Paul Roos, the best defender, one of the best defenders of the time I played, if not the best, he joins us on the other side of the break.
Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy.
I'm extremely excited about being introduced as the Melbourne coach. I'm really looking forward to the next couple of years. And really looking forward to setting a direction for the players and setting a direction for the football club and setting some really high standards. And I can't wait to get started. I know exactly what I'm coming into. Peter's been very honest. The players have been very honest. I know it's going to be a very, very difficult job, but I'm very excited about being here.
Welcome back to Sports Day. Seems like a lifetime ago, the first press conference of Paul Roos back in 2013, I think that was. Jared, a man that arrived with an illustrious playing career and coaching career, involved in grand finals, both as a player and as a coach. And yet, although it feels like all that time ago, Jared, it has laid the foundations for what is transpiring here in Perth in the next few days.
Yes, that was the first public press conference, but I reckon the most important conference happened at Lamaro's about 3 or 4 months before that.
Or on the couch even months before that,
well,
Jared.
Well, that was following a couch meeting. Paul Roos joins us. Roosy, that was way back in 2014. It does seem like a lifetime ago, but you must look back with fond memories of the blocks that you put in place. Welcome to you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, look, it's certainly something we all set out to do, and I think one thing when you reflect on it is how much time and effort has gone into it, not just the people that I brought to the club or the people who were there when I got there, but also the people before. So whenever it takes you so long to get to a grand final, I know through being involved in Sydney, there's so many people that are involved in the club. So, yeah, look, it's really exciting and it makes those sort of early days worthwhile, Jetta.
I reckon, for memory, you promised Richard Collis that you could win a flag in Sydney within I think it was 3 years. It might have been 5, and you did a lot quicker. Are you happy with the time it's taken, or do you think it could have evolved a little bit earlier than this?
Yeah, well, I think if you look at the journey, probably the 3 years that I was there, and obviously Goody was with me for 2, probably my goal was to get us up and around the 8, when I started. So I thought, well, if we can get to 11-11, which was probably, may have seemed a little bit unrealistic after taking over at 2, but, we got to 10 and 12, so that was good. I think the next year was another step forward. I think it was 12, and then the next year was a preliminary final. So, I think that at that stage, but then as we all know, football doesn't necessarily work on a scale that keeps going up and up, and then you've got injuries and players that don't have pre-seasons, and then I think the challenges befell the club again. But to answer the question is, I'm not surprised to where the club's got to, having seen the players and the effort and Jason Taylor's effort and Todd Viney and the calibre that we now see in the footy club. It's probably taken a little bit longer only because of the hiccups, because we all know that, in order to get to where you get to this weekend, you need a good run pre-season, you need a good run of injuries. So, look, I'm just really excited it's happened, and it might have been a couple of years later that everyone thought, but there's reasons behind that.
Hi, Rusey. Good evening. You're a premiership coach, but I reckon when they talk about successful coaching succession plans, Rusey, they all involve you.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's something that I was really conscious of at Sydney, and I realised as a player that coaches potentially have a shelf life, and I know you, even Lee, you won the 3 premierships in row, and I remember listening to you when you finally gave it away at Brisbane. You do tend to have a shelf life, so I'm really pleased that I potentially recognise that, although we did win a premiership in 2005, but I sort of thought for myself, for the footy club, for my family, the best thing to do was to hand over to, as it turned out, John Longmire. We've seen how that's worked really, really well. And look, I knew the enormity of the task, and you could hear my voice then at the original press conference. I knew the enormity of the task at Melbourne. I just knew in talking to Peter that I just didn't have the energy to, over the 5-6 year journey that they were potentially on. And now, having seen it work at Sydney and how successful it was with John winning the premiership in 2012, I knew it could work again. It's just about everyone committing to it. And I think that's the biggest thing, Lee, that not only myself, but everyone at both football clubs, Richard Collis, Andrew Ireland, Peter Jackson, Glenn Bartlett, everyone committed to both those succession plans, and that's why they both worked.
Can I ask you both, firstly to you, Rusey, and then Lee, your thoughts? We've got 2 different sort of coaches. Simon Goodwin coaches from the ground and allows the match day strategy to evolve with his support group. And Luke Beveridge is very much in control, it seems, of all facets of the game. Goes down occasionally, basically just to have a quick sugar hit for whatever he needs. Do you need to recognise your strengths and your weaknesses? If strategy isn't your greatest strength, recruit that in and work on player relationships. Do you need to? Do you see such a difference between Ruse and Beveridge and Goody and Beveridge and the impact that they have on a match day?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, and Lee would probably say the same thing. It's about your whole staff, and I think to your point, it's about recognising, what your staff is really good at, where your players are at any one given time, the personality of the players, the makeup of the bench, the runner you've got. So there's a lot of different things because, having done both, you certainly can't see the game from the ground. There's no question about that. I don't think anyone would debate that. So then you're relying a lot more heavily from the coach's box. Equally, when you're in a coach's box, you can't get the same message as you can to the players as you can on the bench. So I think it is the collective of everyone that makes up match day, and it really is what the senior coach thinks right at that particular time.
It's interesting, isn't it, Rusey? Like way back 50 years ago when the senior coach used to sit on the bench, basically, that was what they did, probably up till Ron Barassi got a bit of an elevated view. Like you said, if you're sitting at the ground level, you can't be really seeing the game. But back in those days, I don't think there was much tactical approach going on by the senior coach. But I think as time's gone on, I suspect whether you sit in the coach's box or sit down at ground level, the senior coach's role has changed enormously, I suspect, Rusey, from when you first started at at Sydney, almost 20 years ago. It's such a group effort, the coaching role, that what the senior coach does on match day depends on where his time is best devoted.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more, Lee. I think when I first started at Sydney, I had Andrew Ireland, who was my GM of footy. He was just a wise head, and I was a young coach, and you're in the weeds. You really are coaching. You're doing everything. When I arrived at Melbourne, it was a dramatically different job. It was really a leadership job or a CEO role more so than a coach. And then I had Benny Matthews, Georgie Stone, Daniel McPherson, Brett Allison and Jade Rawlings, my assistants, who really did the coaching itself. So you're 100% right. And I think it's the collective now. And really, it's what the coach is really comfortable there or what he's employed to do. Yeah, I'm sure that John Longmire and Alistair Clarkson and Damien Hart would be doing slightly different coaching to David Noble at this particular time, or the younger coaches in the competition that have just started. So, and they would be relying really heavily on their other personnel. So you're right, it's changed dramatically over the last 20 years.
Rusey, when you look back on those very important days where you're putting the foundations in place, who outside of Peter Jackson, I think his role yet to be recognised, but outside of Peter Jackson, who do you think's been the most important person in the evolution of the group?
I think, Jared, the more you realise, the more it's a collective. I think the good thing with Peter when I got to the club is they put most of the good people in place. Glenn Bartlett was instrumental. I mean, as a chairman, understanding his role, understanding the board's role. The board were exceptional. I had really, really good relationship with the board. And then Peter was there as the wise head that had come across. And Peter gained the trust of the board and the whole organisation. And then when I went into the football club, Todd Viney, I'd played against and knew him reasonably well. Jason Taylor was a good recruiter. Josh Marnie, a young football manager, but the right time and place. I think it's more the collective, Jared. I think where clubs make mistakes is they think by putting one person, it does make a difference, but a CEO or a coach, I think any of us that's coached realise that it is a collective and you have to get so many different areas right in order to win a premiership.
Paul, can I just ask you, I know it's been a while now, but match day and match week of grand final, how much is the senior coach's job sort of done building into the game versus the responsibility of the senior coach singularly to motivate the group from a mental and emotional standpoint? I assume, knowing that the physical stuff is all but handled.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm interested in Lee's comment on this because Lee and I probably never talked a lot about footy, so it's good to have Lee on the call. But I suspect my view's similar to Lee's. I mean, the players shouldn't need motivation. And I mean, we've got two of the greats on the call, Jared and Lee. I never felt myself that a coach was there to motivate me. I thought a coach was there to stress, and at times, lift me up and be positive and all those sorts of things. But a coach he's got to set the scene pre-season, set the game plan, get good people in place, as we already said. So in a sense, you're in the lap of the players, really, when you get to game day. Your game day is already set. Now, you can make a few moves, and, whether that's sort of accurate at the foot of Lynchy. Lee, I think that was a good move. Did you make that one? That was a ripper.
Those carry-out goals, I just took credit.
I mean, you can do some things on game day, but you've really got to rely on your preparation, and it's probably calming the players down on game day and just reassuring them that you can win. If we do the things that we do really, really well, you will win on game day, but it's just a test of wills of these two teams on the weekend. Who's going to do the things long enough, know the role, play the role, prepared to sacrifice for their teammates. And once it gets, you're really just up there watching the game, observing the game, and trying to give messages to the players and help the players through on that particular day.
It's interesting. The word motivation's different, isn't it, Ruzy? I mean, motivation is really what drives us. I mean, the stimulation is the thing that, like on grand final, I often think that, you're doing your best to create an environment, aren't you, that gets the best possible mindset and the best possible emotional state to perform at your best you can. I mean, that's players have to get themselves going, understand that. But that's the principle, isn't it? It's not so much hyping players up on grand final day. It's trying, in a sense, to keep them relaxed enough to perform at their best.
Yeah, 100% it's the environment, isn't it? Because each player is motivated by whatever motivates them. So the notion that you're going to get 22 players and a coach is going to motivate all 22 some of them are going to sit there bored out of their brain if we're yelling at them. Some of them are going to sit there, expecting you to do something. So the art is creating the environment that absolutely gets the players to play at their maximum. And that's game day the night before. If you're an interstate club like the Lions and the Swans were when Lee and I are involved, it's the preparation, it's the grand final and how you handle out the parade or whatever it might. So, it's the stimulation and the environment that contribute to the excellence or lack thereof on game day.
Rosie, it's been unbelievably interesting listening to your thoughts and having an interaction with Lee. And I'm sure we could go on for another half an hour, but time is of the essence. One final contribution, if you might. At the start of the program, we were talking about the Brownlow medal, and it's like the quarterback in the Super Bowl. The tall inside mid is going to probably win it for a long time into the future. So we're trying to come up with a way to acknowledge the best forward and the best backman. Now, I've come up with Peter McKenna, the Peter McKenna medal. I'm happy for that to be negotiated. And I was thinking about the best backman. And given that you play for Victoria 14 times, 2 times EJ Whitten medal, the MVP in 86, 5-time best and fairest, 7-time All-Australian and 2-time All-Australian captain, I reckon you're entitled to have your name on the best backman medal. So the Paul Roos medal, if we are going to give the best backman of the year...
Are we starting this, Jared? Is this happening?
We are. This is the Paul Roos medal.
Okay.
Can you award the Paul Roos medal to just get the heat off the umpires who haven't awarded a medal to a backman for 100 years?
It's funny, Jared, I had some banter with my nephew around that. I mean, who would have ever thought you'd have 5 players over 30
votes?
I mean, that's averaging 10 best on grounds. I mean, it's extraordinary where the Brown... Now, this is to take nothing away, and you're the same. We're not taking anything away from Ollie Wines as the Brownlow medalist. But, I mean, my goodness me, 2021 votes used to be a really good season.
Yep.
So the umpires are clearly caught up in the media and the hype around it. So I agree in some way, shape or form. The Brownlow is the Brownlow, but there needs to be another way to recognise some of the other great players in the competition. That I looked at, the best amount of votes that a key position player got was 9. That was it, 9.
So if you had to award if you had to award the Paul Roos medal for the best defender this year, who would you give it to?
Well, I think it's got to be, and this is off the top of my head. I mean, Lever's been great, May's been great. Tom Stewart's been fantastic for a number of years. I'd have to think through it. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the recognition for even a ruckman, Maxi Gawn, I think he got 16 votes, but he's still less than half the winner. Mm-hmm. I think we need to find a way to recognise the positions, because it's a bit like the quarterback or the running back now in the Super Bowl that can only win the MVP.
Yep.
When you look back to Ross Glendenning and Gary Dempsey and Barry Round and some of the great players that Peter Moore won the Brownlow medal. I mean, it's just, I don't think it's ever going to happen, is it?
I think only a ruckman, but he's a midfielder essentially as well. But it's hard to see someone having a better year than Gawn. And if he can't win it, well, it's dubious that anybody will. Rosie, it's been great having you on. We look forward to watching it unfold. The Dogs versus the Demons. It's a cracking grand final on paper. Let's hope it is on grass.
Yeah,
thanks, Paul.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rosie.
Paul Roos joining us live on Sports Day. More with Lee Matthews after this.
Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy.
More coming up with Lee Matthews, but first, time for news headlines with Kiara Parker.
Thanks, guys. Making news. The Premier has responded to today's violent protests which saw construction workers take over CBD streets and bring the Westgate Freeway to a standstill. Daniel Andrews has released a statement saying there is no excuse for the terrible behaviour seen in our city over the last 2 days. He says acts of violence and disruption won't result in one less case of COVID, adding vaccinations are the only ticket out and we've come too far to turn back now. Police say they've made 44 arrests so far and justified using pepper balls, foam baton rounds, smoke rounds and stinger grenades to try stop the crowd. 3 of the 500 officers responding were injured. Up to 2,000 protesters were out voicing their anger over a vaccine mandate in the construction industry. The state government is making no apologies for it, nor will it rethink the move. It says a high level of non-compliance on work sites and rising COVID case numbers linked to the construction industry has triggered the 2-week shutdown. More in the news at 7.
Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy. A sports update for Tyre Power. Here to help you stay safe on the road.
Welcome back to Sports Day. Michael Voss, it seems, is getting closer, Lee, as we ask you to being Carlton coach to get his second opportunity. Your thoughts?
Well, I think he's had the apprenticeship. I mean, we talked about Craig McRae, who's had the 15-year apprenticeship off the field after post-playing, and Michael Voss has had that. He's had probably 12 years, but 5 of it is being in the senior coaching role. And I'm a great believer, whatever you do, you're going to be better with a bit of experience. So I think Michael will be a much better senior coach. So he's now had the background. So it's not surprising that he's popped up as the best of the available options.
Jared, do you agree that, I mean, like, we're all sort of jumping the gun a little bit. It sounds like Vossi's going to be the Blues' next coach. But is there less risk, maybe that's not the right word, but is there less risk taking someone that has been there and done it before, even if it didn't go according to plan, versus someone who's done an apprenticeship always as an assistant and this is their first go?
Yeah, well, I think, as I defer to Lee, I think it's just common sense that if you've been through it once before, you've got to be better at it the second time around, as long as everything else is even, as long as your motivation is absolutely where it needs to be. And I thought it was really insightful last night, Lee, on 360, where Clarko said, I've got 2 gears. I'm flat out or full stop. And I mean, if you're not able to give flat out, well, you've just got to know it and not put your hand up.
Well, that part's true, yeah. I mean, you've got to want to do it, but that we're assuming that any coach who takes the job wants to do it, you know. And but I think, see, Clarko's been to the top of Mount Everest. He's different. He's been to the top of Mount Everest as a coach, and okay, he might still want to coach again, but there's not much chance he's going to coach a side to 4 premierships. That's unlikely. Michael Voss is different. Michael coached, but got the Lions into the finals 1 year. But didn't have that ultimate success. So therefore, he's still got the hunger within him. So there's no doubt, there's no problems about him wanting to chuck himself back in the lifestyle. And it is a lifestyle being a senior coach. I spoke about that many times, which is when you're out of the lifestyle, sometimes you just don't want to go back into it because it is all encompassing. But no, I just think the experience of actually having coached a club, it should be more valuable than a guy that has never done it. Every now and again, you're going to go with a guy, as Collingwood did with Craig McRae, that has never coached a senior team at AFL level. But every now and again, there should be the Michael Voss type backgrounds popping to the top. But if
have you spoken?
If we learned one thing, Scoop, and we've got to go, if we've learnt one thing tonight, it's not just about Vossi, it's the team that they assemble around him.
Absolutely that. Yeah, absolutely that.
Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy.
That time of the week, Jared. It's the grand final edition of The Gospel.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's going to be a couple of special readings, Lee. Where do you want to begin?
Let's start with not all seasons are created equal. Because really, I think of the grand final of Melbourne. Melbourne in the last 50-odd years have got to a couple of grand finals. Guess what? In 1988, they played Hawthorn, who in the middle of that, they were super team Hawthorn in the late 80s. Talk about being unlucky to get to a grand final and strike them as an opposition. Guess what? They get to the grand final in 2000. Who's in Essendon with a super team for a short period of time there, that 99, 2000, sort of early 2001. They were super team Essendon. You can be unlucky. Win, lose or draw, the Bulldogs aren't Essendon, aren't Hawthorn of the late 80s or Melbourne of the 2000s. So Melbourne might have struck the year. And the Brownlow, can you imagine, Bont? You get 33 votes and you don't get a Brownlow medal.
Yeah, that's
so
stiff.
you can be in the wrong season at the wrong time.
Okay, Lee, very biblical this one. Spread the joy.
Well, we happen to have in COVID. A lot of things have happened in COVID, just have to happen. And one of them, of course, is the grand final had to be at Brisbane last year, and this year it's Perth. Now, in a national competition, to be honest, we don't want it to be for the COVID reasons where you just can't play it in Melbourne. But I must say, in a national competition, surely it's like fair and reasonable that maybe the AFL and the Victorian government, of course, would consider that every fifth year maybe the grand finals in one of these other states. So basically it means that over a 20-year period, there might be a grand final in Perth, Adelaide, Brisbane and Sydney. Not ones you get a month notice. That you might know 5 years in advance you're going to get the grand final. Now, I know this is not going to happen. This is completely hypothetical because I don't think the AFL or, more importantly, the Victorian government has allowed that to happen. But in a national competition, spreading the joy, and I really feel for Adelaide, Sydney a little bit, but much more Adelaide. They're a footy town, and it's unlikely that they'll ever get a grand final that Brisbane and Perth have actually had. So a little bit of spreading the joy, I wouldn't mind it anyway.
It's music to the ears of the cowboy, Jared. Lee's got one more reading when we come back on Sports Day.
Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy. Lee Matthews for the Macca's Monopoly game. Peel and scan to win today. Ends 19th October 2021.
And the final reading before the 2021 Grand Final, Lee. Not all ruckmen are meant to be usually match winners.
They're not, and there's the rule and the exception to the rule, which I often talk about. And one of those rules is that, ruckmen are not usually Norm Smith medalists. But Simon Madden was the last one, apparently, back in 1985, 35 years ago. Nadanui's a certain type of ruckman, very valuable. So is Grundy and other ruckmen of that era. But I reckon Max Gawn's got a lot of Simon Madden about him when you think of it, Jared. I mean, we know how good Simon Madden was because not only was he a good ruckman with the hit-outs and stuff, but he was a really good marker of the footy, and he could go forward and take a mark as a big forward. And Max Gawn, I must say, is showing a bit of that. But it'd be long odds he's going to go and win the Norm Smith medal. I mean, Melbourne, I suspect, it's my tip to win it anyway, but if Max Gawn wins the Norm Smith medals, well, they'll be certainties.
Yeah, I think if Max wins the Norm Smith, the Demons will be breaking that long-held run of outs of 57 years. Scoop, before we say goodbye to Lee Matthews, just a couple of notes on news. I'll go. Jack Salvani has signed a 2-year contract. Sam Petrevski-Seaton has requested a trade to the West Coast, and Jordan Dawson has nominated Adelaide at his club. Lee, have you got just a thought on who would be the inaugural Paul Roos medal winner?
Well, off the top of my, because he's been in my mind this week, I reckon Jake Lever has been a beauty this year, so he's as good as any without thinking about it. A lot
Jake
of notice,
Lever's picked
which
up,
you'd want to if you're given the award.
Peter McKenna medal. I'm giving that to Tom Hawkins. Close second, Toby Green. Something to think about, Lee. We've got to come up with some medals for the defenders and for the forwards. Great to have a chat to you tonight. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Lee. Talk to you tomorrow, Jared.
See you, Scoop. How's the Cowboy, by the way? You run into the Premier?
A couple of times. He's doing well. Looking forward to the grand final.
Has Jake got hold of him?
You are listening to Sports Day. We're here for Red Energy, CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy, and across Tasmania for Wilson Homes. They believe in great design, so you love being home. Jared Healy, Sam McClure with you for the next hour. Big hour coming up. We're going to chat to the boss of Optus Stadium, Jared.
How's it looking?
McKenna. It's probably the bit... Oh, Jesus, looking an absolute treat.
Are you a little bit concerned?
They've been... Go on, yep.
Are you concerned it's a bit slippery? The slippery factor has been a bit disappointing. It's the only negative I got.
Bit of Stewie Dew on the ground, you're saying? A bit of moisture underneath it?
Well, there's been a lot of players go to ground, so hopefully they've sorted that out.
Well, Alex Neil-Bullen, the Melbourne half-forward utility star, he's played on it recently. He's going to join us in a matter of seconds, so we can ask him. And the Western Bulldogs great, the Brownlow medalist himself, as you are, Jared, Tony Liberatore, is going to join us. His son, Tom, involved in another grand final, a very proud moment for the Liberatore family, clearly. But let's start with the man in Perth. They had a light run around today. They've got their main session tomorrow. His name is Alex Neil-Bullen. He's about to play in a grand final, and he joins us on Sports Day. Alex, welcome to you from Joondalup.
Thanks, Sam. Cheers, Jared.
Give us a weather report from Joondalup, Alex, because I can give you one from here, from downtown South Melbourne. I'll give you one from downtown Brighton.
What's it like down there, Jared? Tell us.
Well, downtown Brighton this morning, as I jumped into the water with my brother, water temperature was about or maybe 11.5 degrees. The outside air temperature with a little bit of wind chill factor on it at about 8:30 was about 8.5. So at this stage, the hail overnight just chilled it all off a little bit. But I suspect, Alex, it's a shade better downtown Joondalup.
Yeah, it's quite nice here. Sorry to put it on you, but probably right now I'm sitting in the sun, it's 25, and then in the shade it's probably a cool 18 degrees. So yeah, I can't complain right now, that's for sure.
So do you understand why people who live in Sydney and people who live in Perth actually now look down on us, and they're doing it legitimately?
Well, it's one of those things. I was actually talking to my fiance the other day about the whole living over here and like the draft. When I was 18 going through the draft, coming here felt like you were moving into a whole new country.
Yep.
And then since being here the last 3 weeks, it's just beautiful. The coastline's wonderful.
Yes.
The people, the locals are lovely. So, yeah, it's got a average rap, I reckon, but I'm going to try get the reputation of here increased a bit, I reckon. It deserves it.
I can remember when I was 16, I always wanted to live in WA. I travelled to WA by car when I was 17, and I absolutely loved Western Australia. And I always thought I would end up living in Western Australia, and I don't think I got back there till I was about, for an extended period of time, till I was about 30. But I just think Western Australia is the greatest state in this country, in my view. If you look at their coastline, it's arguably the best coastline in the world. If you look at what they've got,
surf spots, Jared.
Oh, incredible surf! I mean, it has got the best surf in the country, without question. And you've
Any
got
spots for the boys.
Oh, plenty of secret spots. But you've got the south, and then you've got the north. I mean, you've got waves up there that are equal to anything the Bali throws up, etc. Probably getting a little bit crowded, so you can't get to Bali. But I digress. When are you moving back to? When are you going to move full time?
What, over here?
Yeah.
Or back to Melbourne?
No, you'll be moving over there. I mean, you would have already been in negotiations with the West Coast Eagles. They're going to have half a dozen people jumping on board there, and Freo, no doubt.
Yeah, it's a good factor. Show the coastline, and people will fly over here, I reckon.
Alex, just for the Melbourne fans back home, so training this week, does it feel like you're sort of floating above the ground a little bit? I mean, I know there's still hard work left, and you've got your biggest test on Saturday against the Western Bulldogs. You had a pretty decent hit out on Saturday. I was there watching through the fence when you had some match simulation. Is it now sort of just learn a little bit more about the Dogs, get the game plan in your head, and just cruise through and not get injured and be fresh for Saturday?
Yeah, it's always a hard one. You don't want to do anything silly leading up to a grand final, whether you're playing in the AFL level or amateur level. But for us, it's been great just starting the week as we are at the moment now. We've had Monday was the start of a normal week for us, and to be totally honest with you, I was that itchy just to get the week on track and normal, because the 2 weeks in between, there's a lot of time for thinking, and I guess I've allowed myself to imagine what it would feel like to win the game, as probably all the 46 other players who will run out there have done. But it's now time to focus in and really dial in on what we want to do as a team, and the best way we can go about our business to give us the best shot at winning. So it's an exciting time. We understand that there's still 3-4 days to go to the build-up, and we're just going to try and enjoy it as much as we can with one eye on the job on Saturday.
Everybody has been asked to play their role, and it's a great way of dealing with expectation and pressure. And, the majority of the team are role players, and there's the great divide between the role players and the match winners. But role players can also be match winners, and that's what I find absolutely enjoyable about grand finals. Which role player can we pile the cash on to get the really good odds for the Norm Smith medal. And I'm just starting to tinker with the idea, Alex, that you can be a stopper, but you can also be a goal kicker. You can play your role, but you can also be a match winner. Do you dream of the Norm Smith medal moment where you nail that third or fourth goal and you know that you are getting up on the podium at the end of the game?
To be totally honest with you, I have never thought about kicking 4 goals in a grand final, let alone playing in the grand final.
Yep.
So if that does happen, I think you'll see by my reaction that it would be something out of my wildest dreams. We're purely here to, like you said, play our role, but also understand our role within that team. And for some people, it is your fine role player, but within our team, we have players that we have a good idea of what their strengths are, and we allow those boys to put on their strengths. So that's something that I guess a lot of clubs would say they have good role players, and that's something we've gone about our business this year is each person in our team has a role, but it's about contributing your role at a highest level possible, and that's something I feel like we've done very well.
You have kicked 4 in a game before, Alex, once. Do you remember it? You tell us when it was.
Yeah, that was against Carlton on the G, I reckon.
Yep, 2018, Jared. They just had a very quiet victory, 25-9, 159 to 7-8-50. Alex Neil-Bullen kick 4, McDonald kick 4, Melksham kick 5. Just a very, very quiet afternoon in front of goal for the Demons.
Well, there's every opportunity he gets the chance to kick his 4. Sometimes it's about taking your opportunities in these big moments. 2-2 and 15 possessions won't get it done. But if you maximise your opportunities, 4 goals from 4 shots, and maybe a fluke is 5th, and you get your 15 or 16 possessions, you get your champion data points up. Because bear in mind, the selectors will be all looking at those. You're still in the mix, I reckon, Alex.
As long as there's a premiership medal there, Jared, I'm happy.
Yep. Yeah, the one medal you desperately want is that first one. You can the other one's just all cream on the cake. Tell us about the low point of the season around, I don't know, what was it, rounds 14 to 17 or thereabouts, where you had a couple of losses. One of them was Collingwood up at the SCG, and people were jumping off everywhere, and yet there wasn't a lot of evidence as to why they should jump off. You were just having a flat spot.
Yeah, and I think every team throughout the year has a flat spot, and I believe, and a lot of people in this footy club, we believe that it's about how you respond to those losses. So if you take a learning mindset from that, you're more than likely to improve and learn from the losses. And I think we've even seen it with the Western Bulldogs at the end of the year. They had some weeks where they didn't get the results, but as they've seen now, you've probably got the 2 best teams over the course of the year that are in the final 2 spots. So it's been a great learning year. What's been great about this year, though, is that we haven't had too many dips. We've been able to keep a relatively consistent year of footy, and by doing that, we've given ourselves now the best opportunity to be there in the last round of the year and fighting for what we all play footy for.
Alex, do you get the sense that, without giving away state secrets here, anyone's going to be targeted physically on Saturday? Now, that might be from directive from you, and I mean the Demons, to go after one of the Dogs, or do you also have to be ready for someone from the Dogs to go after one of your teammates, just to ruffle the feathers a little bit early?
Oh, I'm sure the game will be played with a high intensity regardless if there is a role being done by either team. For me, I see both sides of the team have strengths and they have individuals that are huge parts of their team. I would say the players that are on each side on the ground, you'd back them in first, and each team might have strategies that they'll go to if they need to pull those levers, but I know for a fact that I believe in the boys on our side of the oval that we'll be able to get the job done if we attack the game with the right mentality. So, yeah, that's all I can see the game going out as the moment. It's going to be a huge contest, and it will be on from the start.
Was it your words or Lloydie's last night, Jared? I went to bed with words going through my head that one Jay Viney might be tasked to go after someone.
Well, I think he will be. I suspect it'll be McRae or it'll be Libba. And I think Jack Viney is a genuine chance to pick up the Norm. He's my Smokey.
Yep. Smoky, I like a smoky.
I've got a good track record in picking smokies in the Brownlow, in the Norm Smith.
Are you patting yourself on the back here?
I'm just warning people that get on Jack Viney because I've got a track record. My best, as you well know, is Brian Lake at 80-1. I did
declare that the night before. That is true.
I got Cyril Rioli at 20s.
Yep.
And just simply, and I'm going to have a go on Jack Viney, and I'm going to have a couple of goes on some Bulldogs, but I think you've got to go 15-1.
Small investment on Alex Neil-Bullen?
I am now going to have an investment on A and B. I'm not sure what I'm going to get, but I reckon it'll be well and truly north of the required cut-off point, and that's 15-1. I like Cozzy Pickett as well, Alex. I like Cozzy Pickett. And if I do get up, I'll share their winnings with you. You can have a couple of bucks and I'll get the rest.
Alex, I can guarantee you, mate, whoever wins the Norm Smith on Saturday, there'll be a text about 3 minutes after the medal is given from Jared saying, I told you, Scoop. I told you I tipped this.
He was my smoky.
If it's any of the favourites, bear in mind I don't touch the favourites. I mean, what's the fun of tipping Petrarca or Gorn or the Bont or Libber? I mean, you gotta take up the challenge. Somebody like your good self, Alex, is my sort of Norm Smith medal winner.
Oh, I love that attitude. There's got to be more people like you out there.
Who are you actually rooming with? Are you with a player, or do you all get your individual palaces?
Yeah, no, all individual rooms. I've got two neighbours in Jake Melksham and Choco Williams, so a mixed bag there.
Oh, that's a real mixed bag. How's Jake going?
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, it's tough for the boys with families. You obviously have a feel for what they're going through with putting the kids to bed at 5 o'clock over here, reading books over Zoom call. So, yeah, it's definitely a tough time. I'm just super proud of how they've gone about it, but also the families back home. I think Jake's now got three kids under 8 years old, and Stacey, his partner's having to try control them all at once. So, yeah, you've got to give credit where credit's due for those guys, because they've sacrificed a lot to be a part of this footy club for the last 4 weeks.
Alex, we spoke to you earlier in the year and we addressed the issues of, the end of last year. You were either in or you're out. You decided to stay. You get yourself right. You've had a fantastic year. So the job is not far away, and you can grab your piece of history, not just for the Melbourne Footy Club, but for the AFL. Premiership Player medal awaits. Good luck. Hope the dream comes true for you.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your support.
And if you're the Norm Smith medalist, make sure you're ready to talk to us on Monday.
I think he's gone. We'll take your silence as a yes. I enjoyed you going down memory lane, just reminding us of the Norm Smith Smokies.
Oh, the Smokies are the go. In fact, tomorrow night we're going to have a really good look with Richo at the Smokies.
Really? Is that yes, no, Richo? Or is it
well,
separate?
Lee Matthews went through a couple of the role players tonight, as you know.
Yep.
Tomorrow we'll put a dollar value to those Smokies.
I like it. Optus Stadium boss Mike McKenna is going to join us on Sports Day next. Welcome back to Sports Day. We're here for Red Energy, CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021, and the new Kia Niro electric SUV range, which has now landed. Optus Stadium, here where I am in Perth, is one of the most spectacular stadiums that I have ever seen. I'm not just saying that because I got here, and I'm not just saying it because I saw it for the first time in preliminary final week. Many people have claimed to me how special this place is, and it absolutely blew me away. And this is someone that is lucky enough to live not far away from the Coliseum that is the MCG. It's no point comparing them because they're very different, but what I will say is that this place for a new stadium is bloody special. Mike McKenna is the boss, the CEO of Optus Stadium, and he joins Jared and I on Sports Day. Mike, welcome to you.
Hello, Sam, Jared. How are you both?
We're good. Mike, you must be ever so proud that you can display and show off, I guess, for want of a better term, this brilliant arena to the football world in a way that you probably never dreamed would happen.
Certainly we are. Like it's amazing to have the opportunity, and obviously, whenever we talk about it, we always acknowledge the fact we only get it by the fact that somebody else's misfortune has given us this opportunity, and we're always thinking about people in Victoria, but we're really excited about the opportunity to stage the event and make sure that we put on a really good show, and one that will live in the memory of people who are here forever, and those who watch it on TV, we hope as well.
Yes, it's an amazing stadium. I was lucky enough to have a tour of it before it was opened, and I've been over there many, many times and seen some unbelievable games. But I'm really supportive, Mike, of the grand final going around the country. I've always been that way, and it was provocative stuff many years ago, and possibly now people are starting to get the idea that it's just great for the game when we can showcase it at great stadium like Optus. Lee Matthews put up the suggestion that maybe the AFL need to go back to the Victorian government and say, listen, we just cannot have this deal as it is at the present time, and once every 5 years we just have to have the capacity to take it to Sydney or Brisbane or Western Australia or Adelaide again. So in everyone's lifetime, it's in their state.
Yeah, I think that's certainly an attractive argument, particularly for those of us who obviously live outside of Melbourne. And it would be a hard one to have with the Victorian government, but I think one of the things of the benefits that it could provide is the opportunity for other states to make investment in football infrastructure. So I can imagine right now if we looked at that option and wanted to take it to the very best stadiums around the country, there are certainly opportunities in other cities to improve on what they've got in order to justify having such a game.
Yeah, I think it makes great sense. We're going to spend a lot of money on building a new stadium in Brisbane for the Olympic Games. It'd be fantastic to know that, and maybe it would help put another 10,000 bums on seats or seats for bums into the stadium if you knew that every now and again you're going to have some really big events like a grand final. Can I ask you, Mike, just the one thing that I have found a little bit perturbing, and it's not a criticism, it's a question, a little bit of slipperiness on the stadium. Is that expected at this time of the year, or is it going to dry out to a degree after a week of wet weather?
Yeah, look, I think we had a bit of a combination of circumstances, pretty unusual since the stadium opened. In some really wet weather towards probably the last third of the season, and certainly it did it did allow the ground to get very wet. And there's some challenges too, I think, of people's expectations. Having heard how hard it is, which is really an issue we had in the first 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that everyone prepares as well as they should for the right, wearing the right footwear at the start of a game.
Yes.
And so you get a combination of things occurring, and you had a few players slipping. Interesting, probably it was handled less well by perhaps the local teams and the interstate teams who might have a different approach to wet weather than we have here when it happens so rarely. But no, I'm expecting, without much rain in the forecast, in fact, none at all really in the forecast leading up to the game, that the ground will be firm, it'll be fast, and it'll be pretty consistent. And players have had the chance to train on it a number of times, albeit not necessarily in the evening when they might be playing. But with a little bit of due expected, this matter of decision making before they go on the ground as to how to best get used to the surface and run on it in the best way they can to maintain their footing.
Mike, one of the memories that's etched in my mind, and it'll never leave me, was the opening ceremony of the Sydney Olympics, where the stadium was dark, it was smoke-filled, and out of nowhere came a man on a horse. The man from Snowy River appeared. It was just this incredible experience for everyone there, and right around the nation, people saw it on TV, but to be there was ultra special. And I guess since then, the pressure has been on for all these special events to wow us with the opening element of the grand final or whatever event it is. And last year in Brisbane, Tony Cochran and his event company did a great job. Can you give us an insight into what you may have up your sleeve?
Yeah, well, I think it's a question for the AFL, to be honest. They haven't, we've seen a little bit of what's going on, but the stadium, as part of our bid for this game, got together with the government of WA and proposed a number of West Australian artists to be on the card. And in fact, the government did encourage the AFL to use those artists. Now, what they've done with them has been released in recent times in terms of who's performing. But what I can say, Jared, is that there will be some good stuff before the game, but at half-time is the time you need to be really in your seats watching the entertainment, because by then it gets dark and we can really use all the lights and sound systems the stadium's got available. And so I think it's going to be a fantastic half-time experience. Pre-match will be great. And even during the game, I think the stadium's ability to use its lights as part of the event presentation is really going to help, whether it be goal stings or anything else that is there to mark great moments in the game. That will be the thing that actually drags in the fans in the stadium, but hopefully also translates well to the TV broadcast.
So, Jared, for the the listeners that we have back in Melbourne, it's obviously such a significant week for Melburnians. The grand final parade would most usually be on. I think the public holiday's still going ahead, isn't it, Jared, on Friday, which is bizarre.
Oh, absolutely. That's if in fact the state isn't
the CFMEU hasn't actually
isn't in lockdown completely. I mean, military lockdown.
No, that's right. Anyway, we digress. So, Mike, can you just tell us, I heard some whispers today that Friday's open training session, which, again, for those listening back home, instead of the parade, they're doing both teams training one after another in Optus Stadium the day before, so on Friday, and you can actually purchase tickets and come and watch. That will sort of be the parade. The early thoughts and expectations, Mike, was that 3,000 or 4,000 people might come. Tickets are free, but you've still got to actually purchase them so that people know you're coming for COVID reasons. Am I right in saying that they may nearly be sold out? And if so, that would be, 25,000 people?
Yeah, they went on sale about midday our time, so only about 3 hours ago. And the last I saw, which only probably about half an hour ago, there's about 11,000, 12,000 have been procured of the 25 that are available. So I think by the time we get there, it'll be a crowd that's 15 to 20,000. But if everyone shows up, maybe above 20. And there are a lot of things to do in Perth to engage with the game. This is a training session that we suggested the AFL might be a good opportunity to give fans another experience, another chance to get involved with the game and the teams. And it has grown from that point. But immediately following the open training session, where both teams will train and people get a chance to hear from some of the the players who take the field. There is a parade, or there is a march that the Lord Mayor Basil Zemplis has organised for the public to be participating, and to end up in the middle of the city, have a chance to then get further exposed to the game through the footy place, and perhaps even see the Premiership Cup, maybe win tickets. So there's a lot of things people can do, and I think that's going to really give people a lot of opportunities. But I think training sessions, as we see in Melbourne prior to a grand final day, do attract the passionates and the people getting their last chance to see players going around before the game. And for those people who don't get tickets, great chance for them to have an experience as well. It is starting around about 10 o'clock on a school day, so I think that you've got to take that into account. But if we get 15,000 people for that, it really just shows what a footy passionate place Perth is.
Yep, it's definitely starting to buzz. Mike, great to have you on. Perth Stadium's going to be it's going to be on the world stage, or at least on the national stage on Saturday. It's going to be spectacular. The weather, as it is today, is going to be 25 and sunny, so Perth's really turned it on. We appreciate you coming on. Good luck for the proceedings over the weekend.
Thank you.
Mike McKenna there, the boss of Optus Stadium, which is a special place, as Jared and I have both talked about. As is Tony Liberatore. He belongs in a special place in the hearts of so many Western Bulldogs fans. His son is playing in grand final number 2 on Saturday. He's going to join us next on Sports Day. Welcome back to Sports Day. We're here for Red Energy, Canstar's most trusted energy retailer, and for Wilson Homes. They believe in great design, so you love being home. Of course, the Liberatore name is synonymous, Jared, with the Western Bulldogs, and becoming synonymous for big finals as well. Tom's father, Tony, who you know very well, of course, a legend of the club, nearly 300 games, 283, and like you, Jared, a Brownlow medalist who would be proud as punch as a father right now.
Well, he absolutely would be. He's also one of the finest surfers ever to have wax underneath his toenails.
Is he?
But
is that right? So he's in the same class as you?
I'm told he's passionate. I'm told he's a regular, and I look forward to having a decent crack with Tony when the next opportunity presents. He joins us on the line. Welcome to you, Tony. You are our Western Bulldog legend for the night as we build up to another chance for your bloke and your club to win a flag.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Sam. Looking forward to the game.
It should be a beauty. Where were you about 4 weeks ago when they went on this losing run? It's been an amazing revival in many respects. I mean, their best has been as good as anyone's all year. And, in fact, they were on top of the ladder for most of the year until Melbourne unplanted them. They've beaten Melbourne. Melbourne have beaten the Dogs. It looks like a bloody good game ahead.
Oh, definitely. Look, I think some of those losses, a lot of people there were 3 games we lost. A lot of people sort of put a lot of emphasis on it. But you look at the game against Essendon, I think we hit the post 5 times. We were in front against Hawthorn halfway through the third quarter, just sort of got overrun. in windy conditions, and then you lose a port by 2 points. So I don't think their form's been that bad, but they've certainly gelled really well together, and they're playing with a lot of passion, energy, and their quick ball movement's really, really good to see.
Libba, how much do you think about 2016 when you think about this team? Like, I just can't help but notice some of the similarities, not just the fact that they both times finished outside the four, but now final series where they've really had to travel around the country. There's something special about this particular group.
Yeah, look, I think there is, Sam. Like, I look at the bye too. They had the break in 2016. It was before the finals. This one's before the grand final. I think as a playing group, I look at them individually, and I think they're probably better than the 2016 group. That's not to say that Melbourne aren't as good as the Bulldog players, but I just think we're just really playing with a lot of energy, and I just think I like the dynamics of the different players in the side. You go like Waitman. I reckon Norton's going to have a big game, and he's just ready to explode because I think he's starting to get there. If he can kick straight, I think he'll be even better. But and having Steph Martin back in the ruck, he's going to be really, really good. And if he can half the contest against Max Gawn, we'll go a long way to winning it.
And Tony, what about Tom? You know, how do you reflect on his journey so far? I mean, you know, it's been well documented that Tom, like a lot of blokes in their 20s, me included, go through really tough times. He's come through it, and I think, you know, he's been on this show with Jared and I before, and Lee, and talked about how being a father has really changed him and leveled him out a little bit, and his footy is reflective of that, isn't it? I mean, he's back to his best, if not better.
Yeah, I think his last 2 years have been really good. Had a great year last year. I think he's second or third in the BNF, so he's probably heading that way again this year. Undoubtedly, yeah. I mean, look, I just think the dynamics work really, really well, and especially with McRae and Bont and, you know, even Dunkley and Treloar when they come in. And it's midfield versus midfield, and I think they really understand each other really well. And I remember when he mentioned when Steph Martin started the year at the Bulldogs this year, and he just sort of thought there was a massive advantage with a ruckman who can win the contest, but also, you know, his body presence is really important for the midfielder. So, and the great thing that releases Tim English forward, and, you know, look, a lot of guys are really starting to hit their straps at the moment, which is great to see. And, you know, as Jared said, I think it's going to be a really good contest.
Yeah, so I've been amazed at just how well they've turned it around. I think we've seen the evolution of a couple of players. I think the coach is getting the best out of them. Bailey Smith at the half-forward line, playing as a high half-forward. The same with Adam Treloar, getting him back. I look forward to them trying to pull apart the Demons midfield that has conceded fewer goals than any other side in the history of the game per inside 50, Libra. I think if the Dogs are going to win, we are going to be glowing in our praise of Luke Beveridge.
Undoubtedly. I mean, I think, you know, he's probably been the best coach for a long, probably past 10, 20 years easily. He's just really, really excellent what he does, and he's got a great rapport with the players, and he understands the game so well. And, you know, when the Dogs are able to just win the ball and then just press hard forward, and all their backs are taking risk and running hard forward, they're really, really hard to stop. So, you know, and I look at the back line, that's pretty underrated too. So one-on-one, they're pretty good, you know. So, yeah, obviously the stoppages is going to be a big part of the game. You know, we did really well against them last time we played them at the MCG. It was 4 or 5 goals from stoppages. So, yeah, that's going to play an important role. But, you know, every player's got to play their role. And, you know, I think if the players believe in each other and trust each other, I think they'll go a long way.
Are you concerned at all, Libba, that their game is based around handball from stoppage, that if Melbourne bring, you know, 220-plus pressure, that it could break down?
Yeah, look, I guess so. But I guess that's it, isn't it? It's the pressure. I mean, it's which side can handle the pressure the best and which side can apply the pressure the best to the greatest. And that's probably where I think I remember the game against Port Adelaide. Even though we lost, I think we were in front of that first quarter and second quarter, and the amount of pressure that we applied to Port was really good. So that's pretty much, you know, grand finals are pretty much won. What I see are the sides that handle the pressure well and able to apply it and win it and you know, and work away from it. And, you know, and ball use is crucial. I mean, I think that's been a real plus for the Dogs this year, the way we're hitting our targets so well. And so it's going to be a very, very good game.
And a little bit of luck involved as well, right? I mean, I don't want to open up old wounds here, but you played in, 2 or 3 losing preliminary finals? You know, Tom's about to play in his second grand final. You played with some pretty special players then, right? And couldn't quite get there. I mean, there's that element of luck of the draw with footy.
Yeah, look, that's important too, no doubt. I mean, I think, players have to understand that the game and, not get overawed by it. Like at the end of the day, it's still another game of footy, but yes, it's a grand final, but, who switches on the best, who's not overawed by it. Maybe some players can play the game in their mind already before the game and they're mentally drained, but, they say the game's played from the shoulders up, and it's a massive part of the game of footy.
Well, Libber,
great to have you on.
It's been great to have him on, but let's just find out where he's going to be when we're out of lockdown. Are we heading to Torquay Point? Are we going to Bells? Are we going further south, Libber? Where are you going to get your fix, your surfing fix next?
Well, Jared, you're the you hit the 5 to 6 foot waves. I'm more of a 3 foot, 4 footer, so I stick to the point, and you'll probably go to Winky or Bells, where all the superstars go. So I'll stick with all the old fellas down at the point.
Okay, well, I'm not sure I'm too far off joining you at the point, Libber, but looking forward to reminiscing next time I see you. And for your sake, I hope the Dogs get up and win another flag, because then you can all go out to dinner with you and Tom, and so we've got 2 flags between us.
Exactly right.
And then you say 2 flags and a Brownlow. Absolutely
That's
outstanding, Libber. Great to have a chat to you, and have a great week.
Thanks, Libber.
Cheers, guys. Have a good week yourselves.
The great Tony Liberatore there, good friend of this show, and his son's been very good to us on this show as well. Jared, I went out and just sort of stood back from the beach this morning and just watched Jake as he swam.
Yes.
He sort of went out with his crew of the sort of middle to elderly women that go out. Geez, they go out deep. Like I sort of thought, have to be ready here in case something happens. I need to jump out there. But Jake, you'll never believe, Jared, complaining about the temperature of the water. I dip my toes in it. It's got to be 5 degrees warmer than what it is down your way.
Yeah, I mean, I used to laugh in Sydney in the middle of winter when I was up there. People would have booties on and hoods and 4-3 mil wetsuits, and the water was warmer than it was at any stage in summer here in Victoria. So
it must be 15 or 16 degrees here.
At least that. At least that.
Yep. It's been interesting watching Jake swim. Anyway, more Sports Day after this. Welcome back to Sports Day. We're here for Red Energy, CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021, and for Wilson Homes. They believe in great design, so you love being home. Geez, we had some good coaches on tonight, Jared. Not just lethal, but then we had Roosie.
Well, Roosie was such an important part in getting this side back together, the Melbourne Demons. And when the history is written, when Melbourne win a flag, whether it be this year or next or the following year, if they have a run of outs, Roosie will certainly get a fairly strong feature in who was responsible.
He joined us earlier in the show.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at the journey, probably the 3 years that I was there, and obviously Goody was with me for 2, probably my goal was to get us up and around the 8, when I started. So I thought, well, if we can get to 11-11, which was probably, may have seemed a little bit unrealistic after taking over at 2, but, we got to 10 and 12, so that was good. I think the next year was another step forward. I think it was 12, and then the next year was a preliminary final. So, yeah, I think that at that stage. But then, as we all know, football doesn't necessarily work on a scale that keeps going up and up. And then you've got injuries and players that don't have pre-seasons. And then I think the challenges befell the club again. But to answer the question is, I'm not surprised to where the club's got to. Having seen the players and the effort and Jason Taylor's effort and Todd Viney and the calibre that we now see in the footy club, it's probably taken a little bit longer, only because of the hiccups. Because we all know that in order to get to where you get to this weekend, you need a good run pre-season, you need a good run of injuries. So look, I'm just really excited it's happened, and it might have been a couple of years later that everyone thought, but there's reasons behind that.
Hi, Roosie. Good evening. You're a premiership coach, but I reckon when they talk about successful coaching succession plans, Roosie, they all involve you.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Yeah, it's interesting. I think something that I was really conscious of at Sydney, and I realised as a player that coaches potentially have a shelf life, and I know you, even Lau, you won the 3 premierships in row, and I remember listening to you when you finally gave it away at Brisbane. You do tend to have a shelf life, so I'm really pleased that I potentially recognise that, although we did win a premiership in 2005, but I sort of thought for myself, for the footy club, for my family, the best thing to do was to hand over to, as it turned out, John Longmire. We've seen how that's worked really, really well. And look, I knew the enormity of the task, and you could hear my voice then at the original press conference. I knew the enormity of the task at Melbourne. I just knew in talking to Peter that I just didn't have the energy to, over the 5-6 year journey that they were potentially on. And now, having seen it work at Sydney and how successful it was with John winning the premiership in 2012, I knew it could work again. It's just about everyone committing to it. And I think that's the biggest thing, Lee, that not only myself, but everyone at both football clubs, Richard Collis, Andrew Ireland, Peter Jackson, Glenn Bartlett, everyone committed to both those succession plans, and that's why they both worked.
Can I ask you both, firstly to you, Roosie, and then Lee, your thoughts? We've got 2 different sort of coaches. Simon Goodwin coaches from the ground and allows the match day strategy to evolve with his support group. And Luke Beveridge is very much in control, it seems, of all facets of the game. Goes down occasionally, basically just to have a quick sugar hit for whatever he needs. Do you need to recognise your strengths and your weaknesses? If strategy isn't your greatest strength, recruit that in and work on player relationships. Do you need to? Do you see such a difference between Roos and Beveridge and Goody and Beveridge and the impact that they have on a match day?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, and Lee probably say the same thing. It's about your whole staff, and I think to your point, it's about recognising, what your staff is really good at, where your players are at any one given time, the personality of the players, the makeup of the bench, the runner you've got. So there's a lot of different things because, having done both, you certainly can't see the game from the ground. There's no question about that. I don't think anyone would debate that. So then you're relying a lot more heavily from the coach's box. Equally, when you're in a coach's box, you can't get the same message as you can to the players as you can on the bench.
Great to hear from Roosie. He's going to be a proud man, as I'm sure a lot of Melbourne people will be, Jared, including yourself, if they, in fact, get up on Saturday. We're building up to it. It's a beautiful week of weather here in Perth. We are edging closer. It has been a slower build-up, of course, for the 2 weeks, but we are nearly there.
Yeah, it's not long to go, and I'm still pondering who's going to be the outsider. Can I ask you whether or not they're still calling
the Smoky
Optus Stadium the Craypot, or is that not allowed over there?
No. I think that's the taboo sort of name for it. I think it's absolutely just Optus. Although, Jared, it wasn't lost on me the other day. I forgot to raise this with you on Monday, actually. When Gillon McLaughlin did his photo shoot at Optus, I don't know if it was in the papers over there. It was certainly in the papers here. I noticed how the camera and the photographers moved him away from the Optus sign, and then when holding the Sharon had the Telstra sign showing on the Sharon. One of those awkward moments of the AFL when one of their major sponsors is Telstra, but their rival telco network happens to be the name of the grand final venue. Anyway, I found that interesting. Jared and I will be back for the Wednesday edition of Sports Day tomorrow. Stay safe, everyone.